So our first story today is in Nigeria. You guys already know that I live in the country. So I'm in the heart of what's going on. This beginning on the 1st of August, young Nigerians took to the streets in what they termed the End Bad Governance protest. This has been triggered by the economic state of things in Nigeria. So when the current administration came into power in May of 2023, they immediately, in fact, from the first day when Bola Tinubu gave his inauguration speech, that day he said fuel subsidies ended. That day he ended fuel subsidy. And then the reaction, the that led to, of course, the prices of fuel going helter skelter. And then following that was the inflation, crazy inflation. And then a lot of other things that have affected the well-being of Nigerians, the economic well-being of Nigerians. So in the midst of all this, we are still hearing that it's as though the government is detached from the reality on the ground. A lot of people are complaining about the price of things going out of hand. A lot of people are complaining about many Nigerians can't even afford food. For example, a certain amount of money you would have used to go to the market to get something to feed your family for like 2 weeks can barely even feed people for 2 or 3 days now. So this is what how Nigerians are living. But then the government seems to be in like a different world. In the middle of this chaos and economic mayhem, they're discussing getting a new private jet for the president. The president is talking about they're building houses for the vice president. They are getting new cars for the senators and those in the National Assembly and Senate. So it's like the leaders are just fattening themselves up while the people are expected to tighten their belts. So people have been complaining since last year when this whole thing started. But then it then escalated. He said, you know what? If all the conversations and all the complaints we've been making to the government doesn't seem to be leading anywhere, let's take to the streets. So across the country, in major cities in Kano, in even cities that you don't they're not like major cities like Jigawa, Yobe, all across the country. In the south, you have places like Port Harcourt, Delta, Benin, Lagos, even in the capital of Abuja. There's been protests all over the place. And what are they saying? This is stem end bad governance, but it's really triggered by the economic situation in the country. Now, one of the government did a lot of things to try to stop the protest from happening because they saw what happened during the NSAS. They also saw what happened in Kenya not too long ago. So the government tried to do several things to stop it, like sending their dogs to threaten people here and there, threaten the media, shout back, blah 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 blah. Even the Senate President Akpabio came out to say that the people can be protesting, while as they are protesting, that he and then the leaders will be eating. One of the things that took people to the streets was that they cannot afford food. And then you still rub the fact that they cannot afford food in their faces. So anyway, all those things they tried to do did not work. On the 1st of August, the people hit the streets and they've been protesting. And the protests have people came out in mass, particularly in the north. The people in the north they came out in mass protesting. Now, one of the funny things that I saw is clearly it was sponsored by the government is the say no to protesters. Now, you say protest, people shouldn't protest because protest is no good. But you are protesting the fact that people want to protest. The thought of that alone is very stupid. If you say do not protest, protest is bad. Why are you now protesting? Why are you now protesting to say don't protest? So that's the first one. The government unleashed these people when they were protesting against protesting. So when the media will speak to them to ask them several, I think on 4 different occasions I saw something like this. The media is asking them, okay, you are saying people shouldn't protest, fine, explain to us. Then you see a situation where you that is saying people shouldn't protest are now coming out to say, yes, the price of Gary is expensive, people are hungry, there's poverty in the land. But that is why the protesters are hitting the streets. There's also another person who came out to say that hey, things is not that bad. Like our oil sector. But the bottom line is, even those people who have clearly been paid by the government, clearly, even these people who have clearly been paid by the government, who are telling the Nigerians not to protest, they are experiencing the same thing, and they couldn't even make a convincing argument in favor of the government because there's nothing you. How do you want to explain? This thing is biting everybody, so there's really no way you can explain the government out of this situation. Then another thing that they did was that the government tried to bribe people from protesting. So If you come out to protest, there's certain places that maybe like a stadium or something where people will gather before they head out together. And in those places, in several, even it was even caught on camera, several officials and people, eyewitness testimonies, and even people who were bribed, who had attempted, the government officials attempted to bribe, came out. So these government officials went there to give them money and tell them, take this money and go home, don't protest. That was one of the most striking things for me in this end bad governance protests. The people are complaining that the situation of the country is bad. The government clearly does not have a solution to it. Instead, they think the best thing to do is to, and the shameful thing is, they are being bribed with 1,000 naira, 5,000 naira. How much is 1,000 naira? It's less than a dollar. It's less than $1. So that was very instructive for me because it clearly showed that poverty has been weaponized in Nigeria. Maybe in other parts of Africa, but I want to talk about Nigeria today because that's where this whole thing is going on. Poverty has been weaponized in Nigeria. Because if the government have been doing their job to make the livelihood, the state of living of the citizens good, I'm not saying it should be the best in the world, which there's no reason why it shouldn't. But even if it was just good or even moderate compared to other parts of the world, you cannot bribe them with that amount. If the citizens are doing well, if you say Nigeria was a mid-income economy, you can't bribe them with 1,000 naira, 5,000 naira. But because they know they are poor, because these leaders know they are poor, they have weaponized poverty. They have weaponized poverty. And it's very telling. That's a very telling rep, is a very telling recommendation of the government of Nigeria. Not just this one, but all we have seen so far. Because what we are seeing is the cumulative effort of several of the people who have been in power. In one of the last episodes, I told you that in 2015, Nigeria was number one economy in Africa. Nigeria was worth over $500 billion in GDP, and it was poised to hit $1 trillion within a short time before the Buhari administration came in. The Buhari administration came in, when it came in, it saw Nigeria into three recessions. Then this one came in and added to it. This Tinubu administration came in and added to it. As we speak, Nigeria is the fourth economy in the world, yet it has the biggest population of over 220 million people, 210 million people. It has the largest population and the fourth economy with just barely over $200 billion in GDP. So that means since 2015, Nigeria has lost a lot. And instead of the government, so sometimes I really think, is this thing intentional? Is it because we can say outsiders do it, but the outsiders cannot do it if they do not have insiders who work with them. Outsiders cannot push their will in your country if they do not have insiders who are working with them. This is the weaponization of poverty because in the last 8 years, the economy of Nigeria it has more than halved. More people have gone into this. I believe it's over 100 million Nigerians who are in multidimensional poverty. And if that 100 million were a country alone, if that 100 million Nigerians that are in multidimensional poverty were a country, it's more than the population of many countries in Africa. The weaponization of poverty. So, and they said people should not take to the streets. Tell me why they shouldn't take to the streets. Tell me, make that argument. Why shouldn't they take to the streets? Another failed attempt I have seen. Now I don't know if this is from the government, but it's an attempt by some people anyway to make this a northern southern thing. In fact, to whip up the whole tribalism something. This is oh my god. This is why I keep saying that we have a lot of work to do in Africa and even in Nigeria. During the elections, tribalism was whipped up against some tribe, particularly the Igbo people. The Igbophobia was weaponized. A lot of people were saying, even in Lagos State, for example, where most people live, they said Igbo should not vote. And if you didn't even have to ask you your name, they would just look at you. And if you looked like you were doing fine economically, they say you are Igbo, don't vote, go. It was weaponized. Igbophobia, tribalism was weaponized. People were killed. People were maimed because they looked Igbo. because they looked Igbo. So anyway, when this particularly whipped up by the administration in office now, but when there is the result, I don't think he won election, but that's not the conversation. When the results were announced, it showed that a number of people in the north voted for him to come into power, Tinubu to come into power. So the North was fine with voting him into office. The North did not have an issue that he's a Yoruba man, that is a Southerner. They didn't have an issue with it. They voted him to come into office. Now that this whole thing is going on, we're beginning to see rhetoric say that this is the because, like I said, most of the people who are protesting, the large numbers, most of the people who are protesting are in the north. So we're beginning to see rhetoric that that the Northerners don't want a Southern president, that they that's why they're protesting. They're protesting to remove a Southern president from office. You did not remember North South when the same North was voting to bring him into office. Instead of you to say this is a reflection of our failed policy and then address the issue because addressing the issue can relieve the people instead of addressing the issue. Clearly, your policy you implemented has failed. Now they're whipping up is a north south issue and they're whipping up the whole tribalism thing. So, and then I'm seeing some normally these are people that I respect in the public discourse on Twitter, X, formerly Twitter. And I'm seeing them also say, yes, this is a Southern thing. These are people that I usually respect their opinion. I'm like, how can you not see? What's not the difference between you say North and South? What? Because they are the people who came out to say, no, don't do this whole Igbophobia or something. So they spoke out against that tribalism meted against Igbo people in Lagos and even across Nigeria anyway. These were people I could see that. But now suddenly that it seems like it's affected them. They're now coming out to say, oh, this is a north south something. This is tribalism. So whether it's xenophobia or north south, it's still tribalism, it's still bigotry. And like I said, at the end of the day, it's still a clear clear example of the failed policy of these people in power. Because if you have an answer, one of the things that I've noticed since the effect of the 2023 presidential elections in Nigeria, following everything closely since, I found out that when these people in office don't have an argument, when they don't have a solution to the problem, when they want you guys to just fight each other while they continue looting and doing whatever it is they want to do, they whip up this tribalism sentiment. That is one of the reasons why I feel like the biggest sponsors of tribalism rhetoric in Nigeria are the people in office because they use it when they have failed. They use it when they have failed. Having said that, now I want to discuss this whole Russian flags that have been flying during these protests. You may have seen the videos. If I can find some videos, I'll post them for you to see on the screen. So there's been in the course of the protest in the course of the protest in the north, they've carried Russian flags. Now, the Nigerian government is scared. In fact, it's not just not government, even political analysts, some certain political analysts and commentators are losing their minds. They're like, is Russia behind this protest? Does Russia want to overthrow this government? They forget the people who have a long history of overthrowing government. But that's not what I want to discuss. What I want to say is, my opinion, this is why I think that the Russian flag is coming up. If you see what happened in Niger, when the Nigerians were kicking out the French and the Americans, they flew the Russian flags. If you look in Burkina Faso, when all of those things were happening, they flew the Russian flags. Even when you look at a place like the Central African Republic that doesn't have a coup for now, they still fly the Russian flags. In Kenya, I still saw some videos. It wasn't mass words, but I still saw some videos of people flying the Russian flags. So in Nigeria now, these people are protesting. They are flying the Russian flags. So my question is why? It's not because if Russia is trying to overthrow your country, would they now carry their flag? Carrying the flag, oh, sorry, overthrow your government. Flying the Russian flag clearly is going to implicate them. So anyone who is smart and who really wants to overthrow your government is not going to be flying his flag or to send your people to fly his flag. But instead, I think right now what people may not have realized, the leaders in Nigeria may not have realized, is that the Russian flag has become a symbol of resistance. The Russian flag has become a symbol of anti-imperialism. The Russians, maybe when they marched into Ukraine, they didn't expect this kind of turnout. But that's what has happened. The Russian flag has become a symbol of anti-imperialism. It has become a symbol of the resistance. And if you look in the places where it's flown, it is flown in countries where we already know that the people in power are so-called Western puppets. Take, for example, in Niger, when they kicked out, I've forgotten his name, the guy that was ousted last year, he was a French puppet. If you look in Mali, it was a French puppet. If you look in Burkina Faso, it was a Western puppet. If you look in Kenya, the word on the street is that Ruto is a Western puppet. If you look at Tinubu, word on the street is that Tinubu is a Western puppet. So you see that this now it's not necessarily because Russia is trying to overthrow Tinubu. I don't know why he wants to what did Tinubu do to Russia? I don't see any why would they want to overthrow him? If it's because of the Russia-Ukraine crisis, the whole of Africa is neutral. So there's no government in Africa that is suddenly standing behind the United States or Ukraine. There's none. So so explain if you so this is why I'm saying it's not Russia. But anyway, it's just because the Russian flag has become a symbol of resistance against Western imperialism. That's why these Russian flags are flying all over the place. But something that I want to say to the Nigerian government, it's very easy to whip up tribalism, to whip up North versus South, to whip up um, to call your thugs to burn things and loot things and cause chaos across the whole place. It's very easy to do that. It's very easy to organize a say no to protest. It's very easy to call your hungry citizens who are coming out to protest your failed policy. It's very easy to call them to one side to give them $1, less than $1, a few cents, $1, 5,000 naira. It's very easy to do that. But all these things are just patches that does not fix. It's like plastering a wound. It does not fix the issue. The main thing is you should get in and fix the problem. The policies you have set put together. That's the most important thing. Instead of looking at who wants to overthrow this government, instead of looking at who you can bribe to keep people in their homes, instead of looking at how to use the military to suppress the protest, even if because the government has been shooting people. The last time I checked, over 22 people have been killed the last time I checked. But you shoot them, you kill them, they still come out again. Because no matter what you do, hunger is the biggest trigger of revolution. Look through history. Look at the French Revolution. What caused it? Hunger. Look at the Russian Revolution. What caused it? Hunger. So if you do not want a revolution that will oust you, keep the bellies of your people full. And stop looking at who is trying to overthrow your government. Let me know what you think about this protest in Nigeria in the comment section below. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and share this video with your friends so that we can reach more people across the continent as we come together to build our amazing continent of Africa.